So now we've built a leg rig. Let's go ahead and duplicate it to the other side. Normally I would build the leg from scratch for the other side, but in this particular case for the tutorial I'll just show you how to duplicate it. Even though I don't really recommend it, it is one way you can do it. But what I do want to do is grab this leg, I'm going to group it to itself, and I'm going to hide the geometry for a second here. And I'm just going to put that new group's pivot right at the top of the leg there, just for organization. I'm going to call it group leg LF. Alright. And what I can do is, I'm going to bring back geometry, and I'm going to group it to mirror it to the other side here. So if I grab that leg and I go Edit, Duplicate Special, and turn on Duplicate Input Graph, what I can do is duplicate that, and it's going to duplicate the entire leg and all the controls and nodes that go with it. It's best to do this on an unbound geometry if you can. If you do it on unbound geometry, you can add a whole lot of mess that you don't want to deal with. So I'm just going to slide that over to here and just sort of match where that same location is, and that looks alright. And once I do that, I want to make sure I unparent my knees and I unparent my feet controls here, because those I want to have in world space. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this line here just to give myself some organization, and I'm going to hide all my leg information there, and let's start building a spine for this character. So I'm going to go to a side view and skeleton joint tool, and I'm going to build just a really simple FK skeleton for his spine. So I'm going to start out about the middle here, and that's going to be where the base of my spine is going to be. I'm going to build 3 joints for the lumbar area here, which is where you do most of your rotations, and I'm going to build 2 joints here for the thoracic area of the character, which is do less rotations because of your rib cage being more of a solid object up there. I'm also going to build a joint going straight down, and to do that I want to hide the geometry, and I'm going to hold down V and snap to the bottom of this spine joint, and then shift to draw straight perfectly down. So I have one joint chain moving up and a very short joint chain going down. So this short joint chain, I'm going to change its name to hip joint using the numeric input field, and that's going to change it to hip joint and hip joint 1. And then I'm going to select that joint chain that's going up. I'll select the entire hierarchy and I'll type in joint spine, and that's going to go ahead and automatically name all those joints for me. Alright, for the time being, I'm going to hide this lower joint here, and want to take a look at all my local rotation axes on this joint chain, and they are going all the same direction, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave that X down, Z forward, and Y to the side. It really doesn't make a big difference in this case if it's Y forward or Z to the side, but X down definitely is a good thing to have. Okay, so I'm just going to make some really basic FK controls for this character. I'm going to create a NURB circle, and I'm just going to give it an interesting shape of some sort. And I'm going to delete its history, and I'm going to group it to itself. So basically I have, just like we did with the FK arm, the same type of control. It's a curve underneath the group, and I'm going to make one of those for each of these joints. So what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to just snap and orient constrain this control to the bottom of my joint here. So I'm going to select the joint, select the group, constrain point, constrain orient. And I can see it snap into place. I notice that it looks a little bit backwards, so I'm actually going to scale it down a little bit, and I'm also going to scale it in -Z to make it look like it's going the direction I want. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete those constraints, and I'm going to freeze transformations on the curve itself. So I'm going to duplicate that and do that for each of these joints. So I'm going to duplicate it, select the joint, select the group, constrain point, constrain orient, go in and delete those constraints, duplicate it, select the joint, select the group, constrain point, constrain orient, go in and delete the constraints, duplicate it, excuse me, select the joint, select the group, constrain point, constrain orient, delete the constraints, and one last time, duplicate it, select the joint, select the group, constrain point, constrain orient, and then delete constraints. Alright, so now I have all those guys laying right in the line, and what I'm going to do is, in the component mode, I'm just going to move these guys back in space just a little bit. So those look good to me. So what I'm going to first do is just name these lower curves the lumbar control. So up here again in my rename window, I'm going to type in lumbar